All right, we are on air. It is February 11th, and we're going to have a quick design agenda run through with some cool stuff in it. Generally speaking, we are here in this meeting to talk about issues that are particularly relevant to designers or user experience engineers, so that we can do working meetings rather than having to throw that into our other meeting as well. Major topics are Backdrop the product and Backdrop the website. Starting with Backdrop the product, we just had our 1.3 release, which was great. It was user experience release, and we got 32 new improvements in it. That said, there's always more to be done. We're looking forward to the 1.4 release, which is currently scheduled on May 15th. There's a handful of user experience issues we didn't get into 1.3 that we are hoping to get done. Some of them are doozies. Some of them are little. We'll see how many we can get through for 1.4 as well. But we have two major things that we're focusing on for 1.4 that are relevant to front-enders, themers, designers, user experience people, and that is adding a new front-end theme, something that is kind of blank slatey but still looks good out of the box, and a new set of layouts that you can use both on front-end and on back-end, hopefully using some kind of grid system that will be consistent throughout all of them, rather than the three that we have now are kind of all good standalone layouts, but there isn't a lot of shared grid system magic. They're all kind of independent. So if we could figure out a way to get a front-end theme and new layouts that were both separate, you could use them together, you could use them apart, I think we can create a really solid suite of tools for people to build new backdrop sites with. So that said, Wes, I know you've been doing a bunch of work thinking about how to put these things together. You have something cool to show us?
Hey. Hooray! All right, so share my screen. Sorry, I'm a little sick still, so my voice might be a little weird, but and I'll probably cough. When I thought about what the first run experience should be like from a design user experience perspective, I was thinking about someone who might not be, more site buildery, somebody who might not know all the moving parts that are in Drupal or Backdrop or whatever, and how we can get them on their feet quicker. So that kind of led me to having something you can hack against, like example views, example content, and also I think someone might maybe mentioned having like a checklist of things that you can do to start making the site your own. But yeah, like as a side note, I'm not sure that everyone would want to have this as their default experience. So having an out of this would be good, or an easy way to turn it off once it's here. So anyway, this is kind of wireframey. I know it's in Photoshop, it looks designy, but yeah, I'm trying to just think about general structure and content more and layout more than like specific colors, fonts, sizes. Well, sizes a little bit. But anyway, so having kind of your a menu that has things that I think would appear on almost any site, and also display the features of Backdrop. So articles would have a view, have maybe a couple sample articles in it. That could be actually help kind of stuff, like getting started kind of stuff. About would be whatever, and contact would be an example form, and then social links is something I thought of that like pretty much every site has now, and having an easy way to put that in. And then so the hero is kind of a call to action for what we want them to do now that they've just installed Backdrop. So I just thought of a couple things off the top of my head. There could be more, but I'd want to keep it simple, obviously. So it could be like if we have end up having a list of 20 things that they could do to kind of level up in Backdrop very quickly and get their site working. We could maybe have like a button call to action that leads them to a whole page of these things or something. And then just kind of putting in sample things that layouts are good at. So, I put in a Dr. Seuss quote that's not too opinionated, I guess. And then, some visual call to action. So these might be images with like some text on them or something. They could, I was thinking right before the call, they could be like links to these 3 pages or something. and then something more simple, and then the powered by backdrop block in the footer, just to kind of give it a very simple thing. And so I was thinking this would be very image oriented, so there'd be a fluid, and anything that's this gray I was thinking is an image, essentially this middle gray. So that would mean that we would launch with sample like content, like images and stuff. So we'd have to think about what that's like, make it easy to update, change, make their own. But thinking of this theme as kind of a picture frame, like the theme itself isn't really what's going to sell it. It's going to be the imagery and verbiage and just making that look nice and clean. So trying not to go crazy with the design, but as a designer, I tend to be a little basic. So I don't know if having someone that's like really good at gloss like Darius or something might also benefit if we like this direction or whatever. So I think that's everything I was thinking.
Cool. Some feedback that I can think of immediately is that I think having photos for the visual emphasis is a great idea, because it's like it's one of the ways that sites like Facebook or Twitter are effective at customization, is just give the user a big photo to upload, like a hero photo and a profile picture, and then that lets them have their own look and feel without throwing them into make a color palette, which is hard for a lot of people.
Right.
I mean, Twitter lets you do just a minor amount of color palette as well, but having hero images is a great, like, a user can customize the hero image really easily and change the total feel of their site with an image, and I think that that's a good thing for swapping out. I mentioned in a couple of issues I'd really like to have a hero, like, customizable image block in out of the box, or some kind of block for just saying this block is nothing but an image, or something like that.
So technically, how do we, is that a layout thing, or is that a theme setting?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, is that this is kind of getting into it's a total mix of a whole bunch of stuff, like the content and stuff like that. Like this
content
quote.
Layout and theme.
Yeah, it would be a content layout, content layout and theme. Yeah. So a lot of this is actually more like what our default profile would do, rather than just what our default theme would look like.
But we also need to these things that people are going to be changing needs a UI, right? So we need to figure out whether the UI for that is like a block. Do you edit the block, or is that a theme setting where you upload a new banner image? Or do you create a node that has I don't know. There's just so many different ways to skin this cat.
Yep. Yeah, and I feel like we're kind of implying best practices, too.
Yeah. I would also like to say, before we get too deep into skinning the cat, that I think this is a fantastic idea. I love the simplicity of it. I know you said you're not a super glossy designer, but I think that might be good, because, I don't know, it'll be good to get Darius to look at anyway. But I think having the less gloss is on it, the more versatile it is, the more it'll apply to different kinds of things. I love the idea of just sticking with black, white, gray, right, with the dark footer and the dark header. Work for anyone, and then if we do want to do color module integration, you could change the header footer colors. We could keep it super simple, which I think it makes me less hesitant. Depending on how crazy it was going to be, I was like, no, let's just remove color module support. But yeah, I think we could probably stick with it through Backdrop 1 and color module, and then in Backdrop 2 we could figure out a better way to solve the color module problem, and we wouldn't have to worry about breaking APIs now, which is good.
Yep. I really want something that is either color module friendly or something like color module that gives people who don't know CSS or hex codes some sort of control.
Yeah. I also really like the idea of pairing this with all of the sample content, like Dr. Seuss quotes or whatever we want to throw in there to start. Will give people a much better idea of oh, this is what my website will look like, and then let me just edit it And
Yep.
I think that, having the three items in the middle that link to the 3 pages is also good because people wouldn't know how to do that necessarily.
Hmm.
So having like a view set up that does that, I think would be fantastic.
So one thing about the checklist is that we used to have a really in back in the olden days, like Drupal 6 or something like that. We had a really elaborate homepage if you hadn't yet created any content. It's like here's things you can do on your site, and it was like you can edit your theme settings, and you can create content, you can set up vocabularies, and it was like all of these things. And in usability testing, we found that most of the time it was ignored because it was too much text. But if it wasn't ignored, people would read the entire thing and they'd be like, okay, I want to do some of those things. And one of the things was like add content. And as soon as you added content, then the checklist disappeared of like things you could do. And they were like, I was good with that information, you know? So that's something we need to think about. That putting stuff like this on the homepage, like how does the user get rid of it? And if we do
And
it
then if they get rid of
automatically,
it, how do they get it back?
yeah, how do they get it back? Exactly. And so
Um,
sometimes putting the checklist on the homepage, it's great because it's right there and it's like things for people to do. But yeah, they need to both be able to get rid of it and find it again if they want
yeah.
it.
Hey, you
Um,
guys, have you seen that little thing that pops up on sites in the sidebar that's like plus feedback, right? Where
Hmm.
people can like you can give feedback on any site using this thing. It's like the universal like I want to tell you your website's broken thing. What if we had something like that that just like sat on the sidebar that like hovered
Hmm.
in the middle of your page that was like checklist or something that wasn't on a page that wasn't like in your navigation but was always there so that you could like slide it out and be like here's what we want. So then that I don't know, you'd be able to find it, you wouldn't accidentally lose it. It could be a separate module, so we could add it at any point that's like getting started checklist.
Hmm.
Turn off.
yeah. Yeah, if we did that though, I mean, it's actually it's a good idea. Um, but if we did that, then it would no longer the checklist would no longer be relevant to the design, and we could just remove the checklist entirely. But then I mean, obviously we need to figure out something else that goes up there at the top, which you'd probably want anyway, like a site title or a call to action or the classic uh, design for a website these days. Actually, even like backdropcms.org does this. That there's the header image or the header hero, and then there's the single button or maybe two buttons in the middle that actually say like the call to action,
Right.
download or more info or contact or something like that.
I think we could repeat the checklist as long as it's clear that they are the same thing. So like it could be that this says get started checklist and there's a tab that says get started checklist, and if you click the call to action, it just opens it or something. I don't think it yeah, if we put it somewhere else, I don't think it necessarily means we have to remove it, but if we think of something better, we could totally scrap that.
But then what is the process for replacing it? Like if once you own this website, you're like, okay, how do I get rid of this checklist? Like what is that thing?
Right. It could be turning off a module, and that could be like one of the check marks, get rid of the sample crap.
Weird placeholder text.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. That's I haven't thought that far ahead, but yeah, that's
I do like
definitely
this checklist idea though.
yeah, cool.
Especially like if it's actually a checklist where you can check things off. I think people
Yeah.
are gonna like that.
Although I do think that the hero needs to be like one of the first things I'd want to change in this is I'd want the hero to be whatever I want my hero, you know, text to contain, Like
Yep.
yeah.
I
So
wonder if
one of
whatever
the
we
first things I'd want to do is replace what's in the checklist area with my hero content.
yeah, I wonder if the implementation of a hero thing could help us with that, where like it's kind of like a reference thing where you like, oh, reference this node or whatever, and use this image for the background or whatever it is. That
Yeah.
I might close there.
There's an issue for like that simple image block that I went through a couple of ideas that I was like, this is gonna be awesome, and then I like thought about it and I was like, this is a terrible idea. Because like how to just deal with a hero image block is, yeah, it's that we've got so many options. It's like paralyzing.
It
Right.
should be a bean.
Yeah,
But
that's my
we
gut
don't
is
even
to
know what to call a bean yet. That's a long
right,
way off.
right. My gut was a fieldable block, but who knows?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think like short term, we can come up with one solution that's different from whatever we do long term. I mean, even if it's just a normal block that we use the image upload button on, that would be fine.
Hmm.
Like, because that would get it done. It's maybe
Right.
not a best practice, but it would solve the need right now.
Hmm.
And then we just need to figure out like how to deal with the actual file. Like, do we ship the default profile with a file in the files directory?
Right. Or like, is it a file that's in the theme that on install gets added somehow? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if it's just an HTML block, we could just put an image tag in it. And then when people
Well,
edit it, they'll be using the rich text editor, so they'll be able to replace it with whatever they want, however they want. So,
that makes structured content less hurt. I'd want to see it added in like an image field
yeah.
personally, but yeah, the mechanics of like how that works, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, we could also. So this is why I was like, maybe it should be a theme setting, right? Because we can put an image field in a theme setting form.
Yep.
And then it would be in the same place as the site colors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, a lot of sites have this kind of page structure for every like main page, not
Yeah.
just the home page. So that kind of, but I mean, we don't have to be
So then
perfect
we
out of the
need a
gate.
layout setting mechanism.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. Lots of ways to skin this cat.
But
So
anyway,
yeah, the
I do
good
think
news
that
is
the premise is good though. That
yeah,
it's like,
okay.
it's simple. It's kind of a one column, but I guess I mean, if we want to have three columns at the bottom, yeah, we need to make a new layout possibly. I'm not sure. I mean, we
No.
might even. I'm not sure that I would. We could do this with the Bartik layout if we wanted to. The one that's crazy because it has a triptych down at the
No, that's
bottom.
just a
But
that's just a grid view.
oh, you're saying that's a view
Yeah,
that
because we've got
is
sample content.
oh, that's interesting. So it's still supposedly single column.
Uh-huh.
Just the view itself has structure to it.
Yeah.
Huh.
It might be kind of cool to show like two examples of adding things. So
One of them.
layouts aside, this is a view and this is placed nodes or something.
Yeah.
And one thing you can do that I've done, um, there's a way to count in CSS. So I can say if there are three things in this div, make them each 33%. It's kind of CSS wizardry, but
Hmm.
like it is, its compatibility goes back pretty far. You need nth child essentially. Um,
Huh.
so yeah, it could be one column, but this would have to be a different region. Um, I don't know, but I mean, if this goes hands in hand with like more layouts in core, then you
Yeah.
just solve the problem there.
Yeah. It's just a
Yeah.
three-column stacked layout.
Right.
We would do it that way.
Yeah, or if we have the sample content or sample content and sample, like if this is a view that is pre-configured with the standard profile, um, we could do something like we could have a CSS component in this Max sense of things,
Hmm.
that is like sample content CSS kind of thing, where it's like it includes like the view that's out of the box and um, the any styling on default content that we want out of the box.
Hmm.
Because one of the things that we'd mentioned and what we want in the new core theme is we want it to be also possibly like, useful as a base theme. So it's like if you were to copy and paste this theme, or if you were to extend this theme as a child theme, then it would be useful to you, and in order to be useful and not get in your way, you'd want to be able to turn off that CSS for any default content that you ultimately would end up removing,
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Cool.
Well, I can start building this. It shouldn't take too long to build this first page. Then I'll start thinking about really annoying questions like CSS architecture.
Yeah, we gotta figure that out too. I mean, and we revisited, so let's see. We decided we want to keep everything in core just CSS, right? We don't want Sass or less or...
I would avoid those things in core like the plague, personally.
Yeah.
Even though I'm a huge Sass fan.
But we still want to organize our CSS component-wise. Is that what you were talking about, Nate? So that you would be like a separate style sheet for the sample stuff that we could exclude?
Right.
Is that what you were envisioning for that? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So then you could just override it.
Yeah, you're right that like in Drupal 8 they actually literally made a separate component CSS file for like every single block and for every single whatever. I don't think that's a good idea unless you're using Sass, because it's just way too many CSS files. So yeah, but in this special case, I think that we need to separate it out so that it could be excluded.
Okay.
Like all of that default stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
I also would love, Wes, as you're working on it, work on this page, figure out what you want here, but then when you start on whatever the next page is, trying to figure out what needs to be consistent in terms of the markup between each page would be really helpful.
Right.
Because that's what we're missing right now, is what is important to be consistent and what is not, and then coming up with some rules around, what our CSS selector names should be. We kind of started with the L dashes on all of our layout stuff, and then anything that's not layout related doesn't have L's on it. But that's kind of as far as we've taken it. So
yeah, and I really like that approach, and I'm doing more and more of that. I find even with Sass and whatever. So cool. I will definitely keep an eye on it. And I'm actually thinking about this in tandem with what's the handshake between layouts and themes? Because there's going to be some overlap.
Yeah.
Cool.
This is great.
Yep.
Hooray.
Yeah, I do also like we'd mentioned, where there's an issue for having a front page view or front page layout out of the box. That would obviously be a part of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that if we can stick to using a single column for the front page, that'll be the most universally useful, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So that 3-column down there at the bottom, I like that being a view, that it just happens to be themed as a grid or styled as a grid, rather than it being part of the layout. So that way, when a person removes it and adds something else there, you get a single column overall, which I think is the best way to go. Most likely to be useful to more people.
Okay, cool.
Yay. Good job, Wes. It was fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, that checklist. We'll need to figure that out.
I'm all excited about it. Now I want to go build a checklist module. I don't know where we're going to put it, but I want to build the list.
Yeah, first of all, I think the checklist module is way more practical than help module or tour module, right?
Right.
Generally is oh man, this would be so cool, and it's also just really hard to produce content for in a useful way.
Yeah, I think the hardest part is going to be coming up with what all the boxes are to check. Where it's is this applicable to you or not? And then but definitely 3 I can do. Your 3, Wes, are great.
Right. Yeah, and something fun, if we're going to do that, it'd be cool to have, to gamify this a little bit, like the, LinkedIn, that it's you're this much complete, and just, if a checkbox list is one thing, you can get a % pretty easily, and I can animate something fun and be like, "You're almost complete."
That would be fantastic.
Then confetti.
I'm totally putting you in charge of all the cool stuff. Like, I'll build the module and write a list, and you can make
Cool.
Yay. Okay. Well, that looks great. I'm feeling very optimistic about the new theme for 1.4. Other things going on backdropcms.org. We have the user page up, which is fantastic. Wes, I tried to install the edit form, but I think I did it wrong. Like, I merged the branch and then I broke everything, and then I was like, oh, I shouldn't just merge. Maybe I should figure out how to like test it before I merge. So then I unmerged and I tried to test and I couldn't quite get it working. And I think you had mentioned something about like the JavaScript, like the drag and drop handles not working or something. I ran into that same thing where like I couldn't get field sets to open, and I couldn't get like on fields how you can drag the order.
Lord.
Do you remember?
It's been forever. I'll have to power up the VM and figure it out. But I don't. The only thing I had problems with was like making sure I committed and pushed the right config.
Okay.
I don't remember. There were logging in is really weird on my local for some reason. Like reset links are being weird, and like I can't change passwords, and I probably don't have an Apache module enabled or something stupid.
Huh.
Hell if I know what, but maybe it's because it's Apache.
I think it looks fantastic, and I would love to get what you've done like on the site. I just couldn't. I thought I was like missing something. It might have been the config. Like maybe I should just start with a fresh copy and make sure that when I pull the branch over, I run the update. I don't know what I had going on in my own config, but it could have been that there was some kind of issue and I didn't get it updated. But I'll try that again because I think it looks really good. At least from your screenshots, it looks really good.
I'll test it again on my local and let you know if there's anything that sticks out as like, oh, that's probably what you ran into.
Okay.
Cool.
Then other stuff, we have the blog news section, which is fine for now. Darius is going to do a design review, I think, after Sandcamp, so in 2 weeks or so we should get updates on that. And then I created an issue today for the showcase section of the site, which is something that we're going to need because people are starting to ask for examples of sites running Backdrop. And so I went through and found a list of 4 showcase sites I thought would be good examples, including WordPresses, Drupals. There's one on Drupal.org, one on Drupal.com, and one at showcase.drupal.com or something. Katie.com. Oh, we need to put that in the showcase. I'm like, that's a showcase site?
No, that's my wedding website I built in Backdrop. It's funny. Anyway.
Oh, that's going to be cute. All right, I'll look at that after. Otherwise, I'll get distracted. So we definitely need to find a place to let people add those. And so what I thought I would start doing is making a list of the content that we need to collect for each site. I mean, obviously we need a URL and a screenshot, but if there's anything additional to that, like do we want to try and keep track of what modules were used or the companies that built it, or let people add a description, or what's particularly interesting about this site, or what hosting platform are you on? I don't know what we should collect. So I figured I would go through all of those other sites and try and see what they're collecting and what of the information they're collecting might be relevant for us as well. So I figured Drupal and WordPress were a good place to start. But if anyone knows of any showcase-style websites that are out of our normal idea, like if it's a car sales site or something that just works really well, definitely feel free to add that to that issue. And we'll take a look. It's issue number 176. And just try and figure out like what kind of information we should be collecting and how we should be displaying it. And then once we have that list, we can either go into a design phase if we have resources for that, or we could just try and build something and then design it later, which works depending on how crazy the thing is we're trying to build. If it's something like a blog section, we can build it first and design it later. The showcase might need to have like well thought out design before we build it, but we'll see what kind of information we start trying to collect. And then other things that we're not working on actively but have a plan to is an event listing, which we'll probably build first to design later, and a service provider listing, which will probably be the same sort of thing. We'll need content buckets for that to try and figure out what information we want to collect about all of these services. If we want to try and categorize them, if they want to try and self-categorize themselves, we need to just kind of leave them a free-form way to provide what they do, stuff like that. And then since our last design meeting, I also tried to make a little progress on some of the stuff for backdropcms.org that was blocked on development. Added a views handler for project module to pull out some of the information we needed for project pages. I started trying to clean up a little bit based on feedback, how people were interacting with those. We obviously have a lot more work to do there. We need to go through a whole design implementation for themes, which haven't been done yet, but there were a lot of technical things that needed to get sorted out. So I figured spending some time in the weeds on those might be a good place to get started. So I'll probably continue on that too. Getting more project module integration, I think, is top of that list. All right, we have other things going on as well that are not backdropcms.org related. We have a set of slides that are beautiful, and anyone can use them at any talk they give on Backdrop. Once you're done, if you have your own slides, either modified the ones that are there, added them, we would love to get a pull request back on those. So the repository is in the Backdrop Ops group, and it's called Slides. And we also have a couple of issues in the backdropcms.org queue that are tagged with marketing. So if anyone has any marketing skill or experience, we could definitely use help on those. Particularly relevant to this group is there's one that is helping us figure out our online identity branding-wise. So we've got one open issue that's like, we could use a banner image. So we're talking about banner images today anyway. Our Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus profile could use a little love. I know there's someone who's been working on that lately, but if anyone else has any feedback or wants to try your hand at making pretty pictures, we definitely need help in that area. We also have a human interface guidelines document that we've been working on, started working on probably more than a year ago, but hasn't gotten any attention in a while. And that's a place where we can document user experience elements, parts of Backdrop that people will interact with, why you should use them and when you should use them. Mike McCaffrey brought up this good idea recently that maybe every time we add some kind of element like that into Backdrop Core, we should have part of our process be to document how to use and interact with that element here. So that it would be like, okay, we've committed this issue, here's the follow-up that needs to get done that would document the thing. I'm not sure we're adding a lot of new things, but I think that is a good idea if we do come up with a new interface pattern, something we really like, to document it so that Contrib can know how to use it in their projects and when they should use it or if they should use it. So I think that's a really great idea. I would love to see more movement on the human interface guidelines document anyway. So I will probably start trying to do that. If anyone wants to study interaction patterns in open source software and document them all for us, that would also be really great. But yeah, right now we just have a repository in the Backdrop Ops group called Backdrop-HIG, which stands for Human Interface Guidelines, that is waiting for love. So we can work on that whenever we get time. All right, well, that's all we had for today's agenda. Is there anything else that we should talk about while we're here? Nice and quiet. All right, well then let's break for, we've got 20 minutes before the developer meeting, and then we will check in on all the other nitty-gritty stuff we're working on for 1.4. So thanks for coming. Thanks, Wes, for putting all the work into that new theme design idea. I think it's great. So carry on. All right.
Bye, guys.
Turn off the podcast.
Bye.